The moment a wild bird landed on my balcony and drifted off to sleep beside me, I realized something unusual was happening. Wild birds normally avoid people completely.
Oh, you sleepy one. Yeah.
But this little bird seemed terrified and exhausted, breathing quickly like he had barely escaped from something dangerous. Instead of flying away, he settled beside me and closed his eyes.
Look at the wild birdie. Look at him. So wild and free.
That morning, I had been sitting quietly outside when he suddenly flew directly toward me. Before I could even react, he landed right beside me on the balcony. He looked completely drained, breathing heavily as if he had pushed himself to the limit, trying to get away from danger.
Yeah, well done.
I stayed perfectly still while he rested and carefully checked whether he might be injured. I gently examined his wings and looked for signs of damage, but nothing appeared broken.
What you doing, everyone? What you doing?
He simply seemed exhausted, like every bit of energy had been spent surviving whatever frightened him.
You got a girlfriend, haven't you? Elvis?
When he finally woke up, I assumed he would fly off immediately like most wild birds do once they recover.
Hi.
But instead, he remained nearby, calmly observing everything around him.
Where is it? Aren't you? You're the cutie. You're the cutie, aren't you?
Later, when I went inside to make some food, he followed me straight into the kitchen. He hopped across the counter, curiously watching every move I made. It honestly felt like he was discovering an entirely new world. We spent most of that first day together as I moved around the house, and he followed close behind. After a while, I noticed something amusing about him. He had a funny little head-bobbing movement while making soft, chirping sounds.
Swimming.
It instantly reminded me of Elvis Presley performing on stage. That was the moment he got his name. From then on, I called him Elvis, and somehow the name fit him perfectly.
Elvis. Hi, baby. Hi, honey. Who's a sleepy face?
The next morning, he returned again, almost as if visiting me had become part of his daily routine.
Hi.
Whenever Elvis appeared nearby, he confidently waddled straight into the house without hesitation.
We bath in Villeroy and Bock crystal glass. That's what we do here at the balcony.
I often worked on my laptop at the kitchen counter, and it did not take long for Elvis to become fascinated with the keyboard. Sometimes he would stand right on the keys while I typed and stare closely at the screen. It almost looked like he believed he was helping with my work. Whenever I got ready in the mornings and laid out makeup or brushes, Elvis inspected every single item. Anything shiny or colorful caught his attention immediately.
Is it? Oh.
He hopped around the counter like a tiny supervisor, making sure everything was done properly. One of his favorite things was sitting on my shoulder while I walked through the house. Whether I was working, cleaning, or doing random chores, he stayed perched there, making soft whistles and tiny chirping sounds.
Yeah. Birdie Pilates. Birdie Pilates. Yay, stretching. Good boy.
Sometimes it genuinely felt like we were having quiet conversations together. Even though Elvis became very comfortable indoors, I always made sure he was free to leave whenever he wanted. At night, he returned to the trees outside to sleep like any wild bird would.
Hello, good morning. It's a very beautiful birdie.
I also placed a bird bath nearby so he could drink and clean himself whenever he visited. Despite having complete freedom, Elvis kept returning during the day. Sometimes he even landed beside my glass of water and dipped his head into it. As he gradually regained his strength, I knew he needed to reconnect with other birds again. Wild animals belong in nature whenever possible.
Hi, good morning. Hello, the Bobby. Hi. Yes, you are. You're on it.
So I began encouraging him to spend more time outside among the trees while I quietly sat nearby on the balcony. At first, he did not seem interested in leaving. He looked perfectly content staying close to the balcony and simply watching the world from there.
You glisten in the sun. Are you glistening?
Then one day, a small group of birds landed nearby. Without warning, Elvis suddenly flew off with them and disappeared into the distance. That day, he never came back. The following morning passed without any sign of him either. I reminded myself that this was actually what I had hoped for all along. It meant he was finally returning to the life he belonged in. Still, the balcony felt strangely empty without him around. A few days later, I heard familiar chirping outside again. When I stepped out, Elvis had returned, but this time he was not alone. Several other birds were nearby while he confidently hopped back toward the balcony.
Hello. Oh.
Good morning. That's Elvis. Taking up. Great, you've left them in here now.
It honestly looked like he had brought his friends over to visit. From then on, Elvis seemed far more independent and confident. Even though he clearly had his own life out in the wild now, he still came back regularly to spend time with me.
And again. There we go.
One day, I noticed him sitting closely beside another bird on a nearby branch. The two stayed pressed quietly together, and it looked very much like Elvis had found himself a mate. Eventually, he even brought her to visit the balcony. She stayed farther back, carefully watching everything around her, while Elvis moved comfortably through the space he already knew so well. It felt almost like he was introducing her to a place that had once been part of his daily life. For nearly 3 years now, Elvis has continued visiting every few days. Sometimes he only stays briefly, and other times he remains much longer. Because he is completely free, every single visit feels meaningful and special. What started as one exhausted little bird landing unexpectedly on my balcony eventually became a friendship I never could have imagined. If you enjoyed hearing Elvis's story, be sure to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe so you do not miss more heartwarming stories in the future.
Our team puts in a great deal of effort behind the scenes to discover and share real-life stories that genuinely matter. Every video is thoughtfully created, carefully researched, edited using reliable sources, and handled with the respect each story deserves. What you see isn't just designed to inspire. It's created to be authentic, impactful, and meaningful.